You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about two friends trying to do the hero thing. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
We have missed you so much. It's been so long since we've talked.
It's true. It's been 4 whole weeks since we've actually only 2 whole weeks since we actually got to interact with you, like almost on a up-to-date basis, since we don't know how to bank episodes ever.
It just feels like it's been a really long time.
It has. I first want to thank Ben and Addie for jumping in and chatting Star Wars on our behalf on our own podcast. It was fun to have them jump in and talk about the Old Republic, a game I also love, and that MJ wishes wasn't online so she could actually play it. But it was fun to hear them play with our format, so thanks for stepping in, guys. If you enjoyed them chatting about Star Wars on our podcast, you should definitely go check out their Sometimes Star Wars podcast, which has unilaterally been accepted as how to describe that podcast, which I'm very proud of.
Good job.
And hear them talk about Star Wars stuff, because they are 2 good dudes who do a lot of that.
You can also check out Matt and I on Another Pass. We took over Case Aiken's show and did an excellent job of it, if I do say so myself.
I do too, but like John Carter is not conducive for like real conversation. That movie's a mess.
I think we did a really good job with it.
Considering the source material we had to work with, we definitely did.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, our most recent episode up until this point was us at Dark Side of the Con not talking about Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm. We talked about Skyrim, most specifically the Dawnguard expansion.
Because they wanted a panel about vampires, and we're like, oh, do you? And so we talked about Skyrim and some other vampire games as well. That was a lot of fun. Being at Dark Side of the Con was actually a lot of fun. I had 2 other panels besides that panel, and you had one other.
I did Spooky Story Time, and no children showed up. So...
Well, you still got to read stories, though, right?
I read stories to 3 adults.
All right.
2 of them were my friends.
Well...
It was poorly timed, unfortunately.
I
did speak to the panel coordinator about it and let her know that having children's programming was not a bad idea, but because it was the first time they had done it, you're definitely going to see lower numbers for them.
That's definitely true.
So you have to try it again, unfortunately, even though it didn't look like it worked. Because people won't know unless you do it a second time, because then they'll say, oh yeah, they had that last year. So then they'll actually show up. Also, you should not put story time at 11 a.m. on checkout day.
No, because everyone's leaving.
Yes.
But if you're interested in the other panels I did a Q&A with the band Stabbing Westward, which you can hear over on Autographs, as well as a panel I did on the comics of the property known as The Sandman, which is also going to be an Autographs episode, so you can go to Crash Chords Autographs to hear that. Otherwise, Dark Side was a lot of fun. Both of us got to do some wandering, some shopping.
I did a lot of shopping.
Yeah, shocking. Absolutely nobody.
I got a brown leather bodice that actually fits me. I am a plus size person, so that's a little difficult. Mm-hmm. And I also got this fabulous golden tutu that I love it, and I want to wear it all the time.
All the time?
But I restrained myself, because if I do that, then it won't be special anymore. That is
a true thing. Yeah, I mostly observed. I saw the burlesque shows both nights, because a lot of my friends were in it, and I do enjoy me some burlesque. The concerts were fun. Even the bands I didn't know, just kind of jumping in and listening to some music was nice. All the staff was great. I didn't unfortunately go to any panels except my own. I didn't really have the wherewithal for it, but it seemed like everybody had a really good time, and there were a lot of great photos, and I'm hoping that we get to do it again next year. But I definitely really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was also nice to go to a convention that was on the smaller side, that wasn't overcrowded, that I didn't feel like I was getting pushed around, or like I couldn't get through to see things. Like, it was pretty accommodating, which I really enjoyed.
Everyone I talked to was really nice. John had a really great feedback for his how the goth shaped current goth whatever history panel.
His goth history panel.
Yeah, his goth history panel. He had like a whole proper name for it, and I butchered it. Sorry, John. But he got a lot of feedback from that. People really enjoyed it. He also did a handstand while he was vamping for time.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I was surprised. We had a decent audience for our panel. Most of the panels had people in them, which was really nice, even for the smaller stuff or the more unique stuff. I really enjoyed it. Big shout out to Julia O'Connell, who was the panel coordinator and Jet, who, of course, is the creator and runner of Vampire Freaks. Thank you both for having us. It was a pleasure.
I got free candy.
I mean, who doesn't love free candy?
It was a thank you for doing story time.
Well, that was very nice of them.
Yes, I got free candy out of it. It was really fun.
So if you haven't heard it yet, please go back to our last episode where we talk about Skyrim, Dark Side of the Con, as well as other vampire properties in gaming. It was a lot of fun, and we're hoping to do more specials like that because it also kind of gives us an idea of where we may go after we eventually finish Mass Effect, 30 years from now.
Yeah, we ruled out Skyrim as a possibility.
Too many choices.
Though
that don't really seem to matter that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, the ending of the game is identical no matter more or less what choice you make as far as the Dragonborn story goes. Yeah. Like, the Imperial stuff changes depending, whichever army you side with, but even still, those missions are similar.
Yeah, it's not what we're looking for. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, however, that might be a thing.
You've been mentioning, and we'll talk more about other games we've been playing and things relating to that later in the show. But yeah, we do plan, for those who may be wondering, as we are now, several episodes into our second season, will we continue to do this after Mass Effect is done and Andromeda is done? The short answer is yes, but the longer answer is yes, but, because we're not sure what we might do next, if we'll take some time off. We'd like to keep doing it, but we also want to stay genuine and sincere to the function of this podcast and why people listen. So
that being said, let's get to it. In this section, we played Freedom's Progress. The Illusive Man sends Shep to a colony called Freedom's Progress on the heels of an abduction. This gives us a chance to work with our new squad and maybe make some new friends. Freedom's Progress is a ghost town, but soon we encounter a friendly face. Tally is there with her own team, looking for a Quarian on pilgrimage. There's bad blood between the Quarians and Cerberus, surprising no one. No matter what, the Quarians try to beat you to the punch and get stepped on instead. A young Quarian was left behind, but he witnessed the abduction and recorded some valuable data. You've confirmed the Illusive Man's suspicions and are rewarded with another familiar face and the Normandy SR2, complete with artificial intelligence.
The first thing I'll say about this section is I forgot how short it was. I think also because the missions are structured better in Mass Effect 2, but there are way more of them. Mm-hmm. They just feel shorter because a lot of the Mass Effect 1 missions were meandery or kind of like, go here, kill some people, then go there and kill some people, then go there and kill some people. And there's less of that in this game. There's still plenty of action, but there's also a ton more story and development.
I'd call it bite-sized. So this was definitely a bite-sized chunk. It was not overwhelming. I didn't feel like I had to save and come back to it.
Right.
Like, I was able to knock it out pretty quickly.
Same.
But it's also tutorial part 2.
Yeah, it's a little bummer that I forgot about that. And I think, something that's actually come up in a lot of modern gaming, there's a big discourse now around Sekiro, which is the newest From Software game, the people who make Dark Souls, and how, like, people want an easy mode so they can approach this game, and other people are like, oh, it'll ruin my experience if you make the game easier for other people. And this nonsense that harder games like that incorporate the tutorial into the experience. And I don't argue that part. Like, a lot of modern games now, they don't hold your hand and go, press A to do this, press B to do that. Most of the time, it's like they give you a section of the game to play, and they kind of force you to use the controls and figure them out. It's not a lot of hand-holding. And Mass Effect 2 does do a lot of that. But to be fair, Mass Effect 1 didn't really do any of that.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to compensate. And also, Mass Effect 2 is the first one to have essentially a story mode, although like the easier mode, but I don't remember what it was called in the second game. But it was the first time they gave you an easier difficulty that focused you more on the story, and then they lean into that more in the third game with a specific difficulty called story mode, where it focuses more on the story, which is perfectly fine, and I don't mind that. But yeah, the combat also here, it's just funny how they frame it, because from a mechanical standpoint, like, your big boss of this area is something that you fight 1,000 of later in the game, and like,
it's scary though. It's the first time you've ever seen it,
right? And it's also framed in a way that's scary. Also, I don't know about you, but Miranda and Jacob couldn't hit the broadside of a barn or stay on their feet.
When could AI ever?
Yeah, I know, but in this game, I felt like the AI was better, and they were not. They were terrible. They stood right next to it and kept dying, and so I had to do everything. And being a vanguard with a shotgun, that's hard to do against a heavy arms target. I could still do it, but it was trickier.
Okay. Order of operations. So we're still fighting mechs as part of the tutorial.
Right.
I don't mind fighting mechs. I feel less bad fighting mechs, if that makes any sense, because they're mechs. That probably sounds terrible. That's probably bad about AI. But they really up the spooky factor.
Yeah.
Like, the more I think about it, the more I feel like we're going to encounter horror aspects as we go through this particular game.
The second game of the 3 games has the most spooky or horror-related moments, especially because the first, 10 hours of the game, you know almost nothing about your enemy.
Yeah.
And you're slowly piecing it together. But, like, when you first start walking through Freedom's Progress, it's quiet. There's not a lot of music. There's not a lot going on. It's not until you encounter Tali for the first time, after fighting a few mechs, that you get, like, a better sense of where you are, and it's a little less scary. But up until that point, it's really eerie.
How excited were you to see our girl again?
I was really excited. I mean, it's no secret, I said in the first game that even though I felt like Tali's character wasn't well enough developed in the first game, especially compared to 2 and 3, I'm very excited to see Tali. Also, this is, immediately when you see Tali and she realizes it's you then get a sense that Tali has grown up.
Yes.
Like, immediately. Like, she doesn't, like, she kind of, like, is in shock of you and then realize, oh shit, I still got stuff to do, and then just automatically starts still taking charge.
She's come into her own as a leader. I wrote down my baby's all grown up.
I did, on a meta level, look for if there would be any flirty options because, I do like Tali as a character, especially in the second game, but that's more meta than my shepherd. And there wasn't. A lot of the responses are actually fairly neutral here because Tali's not giving you a lot. Like, she knows it's you after a few moments, but then also goes, well, you're with Cerberus, and that seems to take a bit of priority.
Well, for me, I had the option to say to her, hey, do you remember when I gave you that data to help you on your pilgrimage? Do you remember that?
See, I did, and I didn't have that.
And she was just like, yes, it's definitely you. Okay, great. And she told Praza to stand down, but Praza's a dick.
Right, Praza is a dick, and she still told Praza to stand down for me, but I didn't have that exchange. It's funny. The Quarians as a race, we don't really get to interact with in the first game.
No. At
all. And now this is the first time we're seeing Quarians besides Tali, which by the third game seems like old hat, since you go to the flotilla in the third game. And in this one too, I think. It's really interesting to get to interact with them when in the first game you have very little context and you kind of... It's very human to assume that all Quarians are like Tali because she's the only Quarian you've ever met.
Right.
And you find out, oh no, they're just as capable of being assholes as much as we are.
Right. So, wow, my brain just completely...
Blanked?
Bloop, 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 bloop.
You lost all your thoughts?
I lost them.
They'll come back.
Yeah, Tali has come into her own as a leader, and the thing is with Quarians, the reason why we don't see them that often is because they're such an insular community.
Right.
And any Quarians that we do meet are on pilgrimage. And they're often seen as, like, lowly in society because people are dicks.
Right. It's not unlike how when I was in high school, I remember people making jokes about the Amish. The same kind of thing. Like they made Rumspringa and all that kind of stuff. And so I get, I do adore Tali as a character. It's nice to run into someone immediately. I'm still not quite fond of my teammates. Jacob is okay. Like, I'm neutral on Jacob, but I really don't like Miranda.
I mean, this could be another situation where we have our opinions when we first start, like with Kaden and Ashley, and then we turn around on them.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, when I was playing the games in the early years, like, I thought Miranda was pretty, because she is very pretty, and so that kind of led me to pursue her just because of that, whereas Jacob I kind of was always fairly neutral on. I think Jacob, for a long time, was one of my favorite human characters, because also... his later story that we won't get into right now is one of the most human stories.
Yeah. I don't love Jacob overall, but that's more of a meta thing.
Yeah.
Because if you romance him, he does not carry on well in 3.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever romanced him when I have played FemShep in the past.
Yeah, I have because, like, he's nice.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out in 3, and I kind of hold that against him.
Something I'm curious about with this game when we get to her, I won't get too far ahead, but there are characters later in this game that I'm curious now that I've found that I am more attracted to non-binary people than I knew existed when I was younger, if I'll be attracted to those characters now. Which is curious to me because I'm bisexual, but I'm leaning pansexual because I am attracted to non-binary people.
I want to stop you right there.
Okay. Correct.
So being pansexual does not mean that you're including non-binary.
Okay.
It means that gender doesn't quite factor into who you're attracted to.
Okay.
You're still bisexual because being bisexual means that you're attracted to your gender and not your gender.
Okay.
So being bisexual is not transphobic, basically, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Got it.
So it's a thing. It's
right.
a whole discussion.
I am always eager to be educated on that stuff since I have no problem admitting I'm wrong or that I don't know what I'm talking about.
A few people in the pansexual community are biphobic, and I hate that because we're kind of in the same boat, but our philosophies are a little bit different.
Right.
So I'd rather us all be friends because we should be.
Yeah.
So if it comes down that gender just doesn't matter to you, then yeah, you might be pansexual. But
I mean, I might say that gender doesn't matter because when I'm attracted to somebody, I'm just attracted to somebody.
Yeah, that sounds more pansexual than...
Anyway, either way, I'm talking about Jack. I think that because why beat around the bush? If you haven't played Mass Effect 2 and this is your first time playing, you'll see this character later. But there is a character named Jack that I think, to me, because I've been attracted to non-binary people before, I might be more attracted to her.
I think you're confusing non-binary with androgynous. Because Jack isn't non-binary. Jack is definitely femme.
But she's not traditional femme.
That doesn't make her less femme.
That's true. You're right. Maybe I am conflating that. I mean, we'll see. We haven't gotten to that point yet anyway.
This is a whole conversation.
And honestly, who knows? Maybe there are qualities in Jack that make them non-binary. It's hard to know because we haven't played this game with this knowledge, or this awareness. Anyway, back to the point.
I'm happy to deconstruct you at any moment.
Yeah, I'm aware. So after you talk to Tali and talk to her asshole compatriots, you move on to try and find this Quarian, and her cohorts run ahead and then get themselves killed.
Honestly, if what Praza says is true, I don't blame him, because Cerberus, in the past, historically, have been a bunch of assholes.
This is true.
So if there's bad blood between Cerberus and the Quarians, I don't blame Praza for being like, yo, let's get this guy and get out of here, because I don't trust them. I wouldn't trust me either.
Yeah, but also being me, it's frustrating because it's like, you trust this person who's in command. They're in command.
Yes, trust Tali, but that's
also part of it is like my character is a war hero, and so like command and all of that stuff is important, and respect is important, and it's hugely disrespectful what they did, and so I think that's part of it too.
Part of me is like, but Tali told you, but then part of me is like, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
But yeah, this whole part is pretty straightforward. There aren't really a lot of choices. There's one. So this is the first mission where we get a action command.
Yes.
So in this game, you get reaction commands, I guess is a better way to call them, where when you're watching a cutscene, a little icon will come up on the bottom left or the bottom right to signify that you can take an immediate renegade or paragon action. And my theory going into this game, because it's been a while since I've played it and played it on this granular level, that I'm going to be more renegade in this game than the last game because there are more immediate reactionary things that you can do. And I know I'm a reactionary person who can very easily be a dick or be disrespectful if I get emotional. I've had those moments. You know I've had those moments. And so I'm wondering if I'll be like that. But anyway, there's a Paragon one here that I took.
It can be paragon or renegade, depending on how you respond to the Quarian.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is prior knowledge. If there's two dialogue options, there's a dialogue option where you're very nice and like, hey, can you hear me? And then there's one where it's like, snap out of it. Mm-hmm. If you take the renegade option, then you get the renegade trigger. If you take that like nicer option, then you get a paragon trigger. So this is part of the tutorial.
Got it. And so we both took the paragon option, of course. And so what you do is you turn off all the screens so he has to pay attention to you.
Additional meta. If you don't take it, it just repeats in cycles. So it makes you take it. See, I wasn't sure. It also did last a lot longer because I realized I didn't notice it. So I'm playing on the PC, as everyone knows who's been listening. And it's the mouse clicks. Right mouse click is Paragon, left mouse click is Renegade. Which I assumed because that's what the mouse functions as the triggers on a controller. So I figured that. But like, I didn't notice it for a second. And then it like eventually I did notice and clicked on it. And I thought to myself, wow, that was there a long time, but that's why, because it's a tutorial function. And so, you talk to Vitor, you find out about the collectors. I love the moment where Miranda just goes, "Oh, those must be the collectors," and you're like, the option is either to go, "Who the hell are the collectors?" or go, "Oh, those are the collectors." And in my brain, my response was my response, which is like, "Who the hell are the collectors?" Yeah, like
because like they've
is this
never
a new alien that popped up while I was dead? What the fuck?
Yeah, because Miranda talks about them like everyone knows who they are.
Everyone knows who they are.
Yeah, they just kind of come and go, and I think there are hints at the collectors in the first game, though I can't remember. No, not at all. So then, it does feel very WTF. Who are the collectors? And so that's why I reacted the way I did. Because I was like, well, how does everybody know who these folks are?
Well, if you're playing New Game Plus.
Yeah. Well, also part of it is you have been dead for 10 years.
2.
Oh, was it only 2?
2 years. 10 years is very different, my dude.
It is very different.
If it was 10 years, I could understand everyone being upset with me much, much more.
That's true. 2 years. You've been dead for 2 years, and so you have to imagine that in the 2 years, based on meta that we know, the collectors would start to come out after that.
Yes, especially if they're behind your death.
Which you don't know yet at this point.
No, but it's suspected.
Right. Spoiler alert, the giant ship that blows you up is a collector ship. But you find that out later. So I don't know. It was one of those moments that, like, I never felt more connected to my shepherd than in that moment. Because I literally went, who the hell are the collectors? What are you talking about? Yeah. The mission's pretty straightforward. There aren't really a lot of choices to make here. There are a few minor renegade or paragon, but they do kind of make you ride the line of fairly neutral because they're still teaching you how the game works.
Yeah, at the end of this mission where you have to decide what to do with Vitor, and Miranda says, grab the Quarian and let's go. I'm just like, fuck you, grab the Quarian. We're not grabbing anyone.
That's my thought, too. Like, who are you?
No, we do not grab people without their consent. No.
We will take his Omni tool.
Well, that would have been, like, preferred to ask, like, Vitor, can we have a copy of your data? That would be very nice and helpful.
Yeah.
But because he's sick, he's not, like, being an asshole to me or anything. Why am I going to be a dick to him?
What I do appreciate about this, though, is that when talking about Vitor, the language is fairly supportive talking about him. It's clear that there's something wrong. Not necessarily something wrong with him, like he's defective, but like there's clearly something troubling him. Yeah. He's clearly unstable at the point that you meet him, but it's never like, oh, this guy's fucked up, forget him. Like there's never language like that. And so like we talked about in the early mission of the first game that there was a character in a similar position that wasn't treated as positively. I like how Vitor is never treated as an object here, except by Miranda because she's a bitch.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. With Vitor, it's a little bit different because his issue isn't mental health related, really.
That's true.
He has anxiety.
Yeah.
And what he's going through right now is brought on by his anxiety, and also he has a fever.
Right.
And he has an infection that he's fighting off. So he's kind of delirious. It's more that he's like physically sick rather than mentally ill.
Right. That's true, but I think it's still in the first game there was not a lot of kindness towards people who have difficulties, and they've handled that poorly in a lot of different places, and that doesn't seem to be the case here early on. I'm very happy with the way the characters treat each other, even the ones who are assholes. Like, it all feels very real and natural, which I did like.
How did you feel about our new progress report setup?
Like, I forgot about the summaries at the end of missions.
I did too.
Where it, like, tells you everything you've unlocked and found. Like, I get why, because finding things in this game works very differently. Mm-hmm. You know, the hacking mostly serves to get credits. You don't really get items for it.
I like the hacking mini games.
They're better than the hacking in the first game.
Yeah.
But
gives variety.
But I feel like these are too simple. Like, I don't know. There's no the challenge in. There's no real challenge in these hacking minigames, only because it's just how many credits will you get? How fast can you do it? It's less about will you fail or not. And even if you fail, you can try again.
I don't think you can.
You can.
You can?
Because I failed on several of them.
Okay.
I failed on the pattern matching ones and was able to try again. So maybe not all of them, but the ones that I did fail, it might also be because it was the first mission that I could.
It could also be remembering mechanics from one where you could not try again.
Yeah, one you definitely can't. You could only use Omnigel at that point. But yeah, I think that I understand people's complaints. I think that there were some places where they did oversimplify. Some of it I really like. Like, I really do like having ammo. I hated the overheating system. I just hated it. Like, it's annoying enough with a shotgun in any game where you have 4 rounds in a shotgun and it takes forever to reload a shotgun. For then to overheat and then you can't use it for an extra 30 to 40 seconds is an additional headache that I didn't want, that I'm glad is gone.
Yeah. I think that the progress reports remind you that the Illusive Man is like an ever-present thing that you have to deal with, because there's always a picture of him.
Yep.
And it's a report to him, essentially.
Right. Well, and you weren't really reporting to anybody in the first game. Like, you did report to the council, but you had those video chats. They didn't expect you to, like, send them dossiers, whereas the Illusive Man information is power, and so he expects you to send him everything.
Right. Sorry, I just cracked my knuckles because I can't control myself. I'm a monster.
It's fine.
I like the directional display because I get turned around very easily.
Yes.
So it helped me to, like, know which way I had to go. So that was helpful. And like I said, I like the hacking mini games because I like stuff like that. I
do too. Like I said, I just wish there was a little more of a challenge. And I think this is also coming from a place where, like, a recent game I played that had it, which was the Spider-Man game for PS4, had a similar kind of mini game that I just felt was more challenging. But that said, I don't mind them either.
How did you feel about the conversation with the Illusive Man, like, after we finished Freedom's Progress?
My issue with the Illusive Man and early Miranda, at least, because I know more than I should, there's a lot of talking down to Shepard. Like, Shepard's an idiot. Like, he's just a thug. And Shepard's proven that he, she, they are not a thug. Right. And to be treated that way is frustrating. Also, again, with the freaking Illusive Man, it's like, oh yeah, the collectors, they're doing this. It's like, who are the collectors? Why are you talking to me like I should know this shit?
I also love that, like, he knew that already, but he wanted you to go verify it so that way he could lock you in even more.
Yeah.
So, like, ever since I read Ursula's email, I'm just like, you're right, he is a creep, and I'm seeing it everywhere. Uh-huh. Yeah. Look what you did, Ursula.
This is your fault. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always frustrated. I'm always, like, he is the one where it's with my conversations with the Illusive Man that I've taken the most renegade conversations. Yeah. Not a lot, but, like, I will be snarky every so often because I'm tired of his crap already. Yeah. And this is the second mission working with him. But after that, I forgot that conversation ends with the return of Joker. Right. Which we were talking about.
Before we get to Joker, I do have a point where you ask him where all your previous squad members are.
Oh, yes. And you can get info on all of them.
I think he knows where everyone is. Or at least he definitely knows where your human squad mate is. Yeah. And I think he's actively trying to keep you away from everyone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because if you're isolated and you're only surrounded by the people he approves, then he can control you that much easier. Right. But yeah. Though he might not actually know where Garrus is. That one might be true.
Right, based on the mission dossiers that we get after that.
Yes.
Because after that conversation, essentially, the Illusive Man tells you that you need to put a team together because, surprise, surprise, in a Mass Effect game, you need to put a team together. And gives you a bunch of dossiers on several people. The most prominent one being Mordin Solus, because you already know you're going to need a countermeasure to these weird little insects that are freezing humans. Oh, did we mention that? Yeah, the collectors use tiny little bug machines that freeze people as soon as they sting them. It's terrifying and horrifying.
Because I wasn't afraid of insects before.
Right. And the fact that in later scenes in the game, you can see people's eyes moving after they've been frozen. It's the creepiest thing.
Why would you bring that up right now?
I know. It's awful.
I still have yet to eat.
Anyway, after that, though, the Illusive Man does reward you by revealing that he's reunited you with a teammate, and Joker joins you, which is really exciting. Essentially, Joker quit the Alliance because they swept everything under the rug, and he already hated bureaucracy to begin with. And so it was not a hard choice for him to go especially once he found out that Shepard was alive.
Joker is basically your best, most loyal friend, isn't he?
More or less, yeah. You also, though, in 2 years prior, saved his ass. He'd be dead without you.
That's true.
And I'm sure he knows that.
He owes you a life debt.
He does. And then, of course, it's shortly after that, in a cutscene, it's revealed that you also have a brand new Cerberus-built version of the Normandy, the SR2, which is a second-generation Normandy. It's pretty and orange and black and white.
Yellow. Not orange.
Orange. Anyway. But you get the new ship, and then it's cutscenes for days.
Yeah, so many cutscenes. But we do get to see our fancy new ship, and we see a little bit of the way that they've changed things. Now we have our own private quarters for all the dates we want to go on.
Tutorial thing again. So you get to see the inside of the ship, you walk through, and then it shows you all of the things in the ship and how you can interact with them, but it's like disembodied. Like it shows your quarters, it shows the galaxy map, it shows the different floors, and like tells you what you can do in all of them. And I get the point of that, but I would have loved at least maybe a VO with your new AI ship, onboard AI, like describing it, like the because that moment takes me out of the game. Like I'm like, what am I looking at? This is a video game moment, not a narrative moment. Yeah, and so I kind of hated that.
Yeah. So we have our own private quarters. So for all the dates we're gonna go on.
Right.
We have now an armory.
Yes, that's because now you can't just change your equipment or upgrade your equipment at any time.
We have a tech lab.
Where you can upgrade your stuff.
Upgrades. What else did it show us? And we have like a personal terminal where we get emails.
Yep, you can, and other contacts from other people out there in the Spaceverse.
I cheated and I read my emails before saving.
I didn't because you told me not to.
I read my emails.
Liar. Deceiver.
I wanted to read my emails. There was a message from my mom.
Yes, I know. Our mom.
Were you?
I mean...
Oh, no, there wasn't a message from my mom. You got a message from your mom.
Yeah, which I haven't read yet.
I forgot. I'm still in, like, fanfic brain where I have a mom in my fanfic brain.
Well, also...
My Shepard does not have parents.
Right.
Her parents are dead.
But I also was saying our parents because we're both Shepard.
Yeah, but your parents are alive.
My parents are alive.
Well, your mom is alive. Your dad died when you were young. Sorry.
Yes. I'm aware. I lived it. But anyway, after all of that, then you're, of course, introduced to the onboard AI, which is Edie, who has a lovely and pleasant voice. And you immediately go, well, Joker's going to hate this.
Yeah.
Which you're not wrong, though you don't get to discuss it with him yet. But Edie assures you she cannot control the ship. She only controls weapons and other onboard systems, but the ship's piloting is still left to the pilot.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to conversations with Edie because you learn a lot about her and her sense of lack of humor.
Right. Well, which makes her funnier.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a running gag in the third game that she's learning to be more human.
That is a joke.
Yeah, that line is said a lot.
I love her. She's really fun.
She's the best. But yeah, and then that's it. You're on the ship. You have to choose where to go to next. We got several missions of where to go to recruit people, but we're heavily insisted. Even Miranda mentions it again on the ship that you should go look for Mordin Solus because you need these countermeasures.
Yes, which is a smart idea.
Right. But she's kind of still an ass about it.
She's gonna be for a while.
Yeah. And yeah, and then that's that. And then we stopped and saved there. Like, all of this mission did for me is get me excited to actually play the game.
Yes.
Because it's still more tutorial.
Yes,
it was nice to see
done with
Tali.
tutorial.
But, like, I'm looking forward to talking to certain people. Like, I saw her walking, but I didn't talk to her yet. But Kelly Chambers, who is our best friend.
I love Kelly. She's so sweet.
The problem with this game, though, as opposed to the first game, is sort of removed enough. Like, the narrative is really strong, but the immersion is less strong. The second game is where the immersion gets really deep for me, and I'm already getting anxious about stuff I know is coming up later that I shouldn't be worrying about.
Yeah.
Because I can't help but think about the really traumatic shit that happens in this game, because there's a lot of it. Buckle in. But, like, my brain already jumps to it. It's kind of why I get paralyzed when playing Skyrim, because I think about all the other things I need to do to get to the other things I need to do instead of living in the moment in the game.
Yeah, we have to take it one mission at a time.
Yeah.
Which is why we have a handy episode guide.
That's true. It is pinned on our Facebook page. It shows all of the missions we will be playing in order. So if you do want to get a little bit ahead of us, you can. But, I think it's also fun to play along with us. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to go ahead, we have stuff broken down in case you're taking notes or keeping track or keeping things separate. There's a lot of them. It's going to take us a while to get through this, but we're in it together.
Yep. Our next episode is going to be about the Professor.
Which is, of course, Morden Solis, who is mentioned by both Miranda and the Illusive Man. He is on Omega. We will find out more about Omega in that next episode. Which
will have a guest host, Drew Mick from Headline Heroes.
Yep, Drew's going to join us. We're letting people who have been fans of the show or other podcasters, people who've been interested in us and in the show, to pick their favorite missions and join us, because we realized, for one, we are very Paragon heavy, the two of us, and we need some assholes. But beyond that, we want...
That's not to say that the people we've asked to join us are assholes.
That's true.
I just want to make that very clear.
That's fact. That is true. But I'm not saying, Drew Mick, that you are an asshole. Although I don't know you that well, so you could be.
Please don't insult our fan base.
Fair enough. No, but in all seriousness, we need some renegade perspectives and some other perspectives, people of color, others, sexual orientations, identities, all of this stuff. Like, we want other perspectives. It was really great to have Nelson on the show as a POC to talk about what playing this game was like for him and his interactions with certain people. And, so we're looking to get more perspectives besides our own in this season. So yeah, Drew Mick is going to join us next time. We're going to interact with Morden Solis. I particularly remember liking that mission a lot, but we'll see how well it holds up. Because it's been a while since I've played the game.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like before we wrap up, about not having played this game in a really long time, because it's been many years, is that I've forgotten a lot. And I'm happy about that, because it makes it feel like a fresher experience. Part of me wants to buy Andromeda sooner rather than later and play it and have my playthrough for the show not be my first playthrough. But I also kind of feel like that'll be more interesting if it is.
It has to be your first playthrough.
Right. And so, because, especially considering the legacy of the game at this point. So anyway, I've been enjoying not remembering a lot of Mass Effect 2 or conflating it with Mass Effect 3, because it's been fun to kind of rediscover the game as I play through. Because I'm not quite sure what comes next, other than loose memories of the missions based on the mission names. So anyway, yeah, that's what we're doing next time. I'm excited to have Drew on the show. His podcast's really great, and I'm excited to have his perspective on everyone's favorite Broadway-loving alien doctor.
Well, not necessarily Broadway. Show tunes.
Show tunes.
Was Pirates of Penzance ever on Broadway?
It must have been.
I don't know.
I feel like it has to have been.
Theater nerds at me.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Okay, so... Fandom Corner, I don't really have anything except my own bullshit. Back on my bullshit, wrote a new chapter of Tapestries, which features a karaoke bar. So please read my fanfic. You can find me on Archive of Our Own. My username is iHoardLibrarians, and my fic is called Tapestries, and I might write a new one crossing over Mass Effect and Animorphs. Because I think it'll be hilarious. And I think it'll be easy to do, because we just sub out Reapers for Yerks. It's the same MO.
Yeah, I know. Anyway. This is slightly off topic, but it pertains to the first Mass Effect. I'm watching, now I'm blanking on the name of the show. It'll come back to me, so maybe I'll bring it up next episode. But I'm watching a sci-fi show that had a moment that reminded me of Mass Effect, but I can't remember. Oh, The Expanse. I'm watching The Expanse. It's currently on Amazon. The new season will be on Amazon. But there is a moment where the lead character, I guess spoilers for
The Expanse.
He touches an alien thing, gets zapped with memories, and then is almost killed by it, and then is like resuscitated, and like nobody believes him. Like, it's more or less moment for moment Shepard.
# Commander Shepard.
Right, and so it was one of those things where I was watching it going, oh my god, Holden is fucking Shepard. This is awesome. So anyway, yeah, that. It was only sort of relevant. I apologize. So you've got some really cool stuff coming up, huh?
Yes, I have done some really cool stuff, and I have a cool thing coming.
Plug yo shit.
So...
I don't know. It was like Treat Yourself from Parks and Rec, but
which celebrated 10 years today.
It did, as of when we're recording.
Anyway. I was on Lore Party, talking about love in a time of Mass Effect, which was really fun.
It's a 2-part episode.
It is. It's about, 45 minutes to an hour of,
total.
Yeah, of us talking about Mass Effect and the romances therein and how does that relate to romance in the real world.
It was actually really fascinating stuff. I really loved it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Matt couldn't join us for that, but I was there, and hopefully we'll be back on Lore Party.
It was probably a better conversation without me, I'll be honest.
I mean, I think you're insightful sometimes.
Once in a while.
And hopefully we're going to have Abu from the Lore Party crew joining us much later in the season, but we can't wait for that. I was also, dying. Pardon me. I was also on Minds at Yerk, which will drop actually right before this episode drops. So go to the Minds at Yerk podcast and listen to the most recent episode. I'm there talking about my favorite middle grade series.
The Animorphs.
Yes.
The aforementioned Animorphs.
Look, I have a lot of feelings about Animorphs. Animorphs were fucking brutal.
Sure.
You should read them.
Put it on the list.
Okay. What else do I have to talk about? I was on Another Pass.
Yep, you're going to be on an episode. As of when you're listening, the most recent episode of Screen Snark featured both MJ and Jeff from Fun and Games. Right. It was essentially a menage of all of my co-hosts. Yes, I use that language even on the show, I believe. And we talk about both movies and gaming, which was actually really refreshing to fit into the Screen Snark format. We talk about all the most recent games we've played. Also,
we were all on Scruffy Nerf Herders.
That's true. This is all part of the 2019 roundtable that we did. Round Robin, where all of the certain POV... Yeah, that was good.
Try that again.
I'm not cutting that out. All of the certain POV podcast swap shows, essentially, with the exception of, I think, one show wasn't actually recorded, but I can't remember which.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Oh, no, maybe that's not true. Maybe we did swap all of them. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. We all hosted each other's shows. I have too many podcasts, exemplified by I was on too many podcasts.
Well.
Yeah, I know. But that was a lot of fun, and we're hoping to do that again next year. I think that's it as far as plugs go.
I think so. Do you have anything?
I mentioned earlier, I have 2 different Dark Side of the Con related episodes on my podcast Autographs, which is not on certain POV. One was a interview with a Q&A with the band Stabbing Westward, and the other one is a podcast about a panel that I did at Dark Side about Sandman and goth culture. So yeah, you can go check that out, crashcourse.com.
And you can follow us on social media. We are at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Facebook.com/ReignitePod. You can also send us an email, reignitepod@gmail.com. Rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. We're members of Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find
Your turn.
To find more nerdy podcasts and a link to our Discord. Our latest t-shirt, It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow, featuring Kaden Nolenko, was designed by Christina Spinks. Follow her at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. Special thanks to David Boyle for our logo and Dan Bull for the use of our theme, Mass Effect Rap. Remember, next up is The Professor with Drew and Mick, and we can't wait to see you. I've been MJ.
And I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon, and this is our favorite podcast on the Citadel.
We should go.
Up above, you see blood red clouds boiling across the sky.
I hear that you're about to go on an adventure.
You know how Emma likes to have me running around worrying about things?
You see armies at your back, dwarven, elven, human. You see all the races under your command, and you wickedly smile back at yourself.
We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
And you see this light being shattered into 7 different pieces.
It's not worth the risk.
Just say it's part of my inquisitive nature.
I have been following you for a very long time.
Do you want a countdown? 3, 2, 1. Now. And you feel the world drop out from beneath you.
The Lucky Die Podcast is a weekly 5e Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast. Join our adventure every Monday wherever you download podcasts by searching for The Lucky Die.